I was lounging in a kiddie pool, stark naked except for a cowboy hat and shades, when I first noticed the low, deliberate hum of wings overhead. The drone hovered, paused, and angled its tiny lens right at me, as if it were silently judging my life decisions. In that moment, two things clicked. One, this wasn't some nature enthusiast gadget, and two, Linda from the HOA was about to ignite the most absurd battle of her existence. Let me rewind a bit before you think I've completely lost it. I live just beyond the edge of a gated community called Falcon Crest Estetisa, name that practically screams self-importance. My land butts up against theirs, but I'm not part of their HOA. I've got 5 sweet acres of freedom, complete with solar panels, an automated garden, and a chili pepper greenhouse where I've bred my own fiery hybrids. It's my little paradise. Then the drone showed up. At first, I figured it was just a kid's toy, nothing to sweat over. I waved, flicked at the universal "get lost" sign, and went back to sipping my oversized juice pouch. But it returned the next day, circling my greenhouse like it had a personal stake in my peppers. It buzzed low over my compost bins, lingered creepily near my kitchen window, then darted off. Odd, sure, but I chalked it up to nosy neighbors with a shiny new gadget. That is, until the envelope arrived taped to my mailbox, no less. Inside was a typed note on floral HOA stationery. Dear resident, aerial footage has identified multiple violations of community aesthetic standards, including unapproved lawn decor, Cybele compost bins, and shirtless loitering. Loitering? I don't even live in their jurisdiction. That's when I realized this wasn't just curiosity, it was a full-on surveillance operation. I marched over to the community office and met Linda Marshall, the perpetually perky yet ruthlessly critical HOA president. She had that haircut, the kind with layers sharp enough to cut glass and a stare that could sour cream. She introduced herself as the board president, her badge looking like it came straight from a dollar store craft bin. I asked, calmly at first, why their drones were buzzing my land. She flashed a smile that reeked of disdain. Oh, the security drone ensures adjacent properties aren't disrupting neighborhood harmony. Nothing personal, she said, before casually noting I could appeal if I filled out a form, got pre-approval, and attended their next meeting as a non-resident with a waiver. Oh, and the footage? Already archived for future safety reviews. Translation, she'd been filming me, storing it, and calling it safety. I wasn't sure what unnerved me more, her assumed authority or her belief she was entitled to it. By week's end, 3 drones were looping my property like clockwork. I jolt awake to buzzing at dawn, and once, during a midnight bathroom run, I caught one peering through the window like a robotic creep. My buddy Jake, a former Air Force radar tech turned lawnmower whisperer and barbette champion, came over for beers. When I told him, he nearly choked on a pretzel. You're getting droned by the HOA? Man, that's not just invasive, it's borderline airspace violation. That's when it hit me. We didn't need to file complaints or play by Linda's rules. We needed to hit back with something she'd understand. Pure, unadulterated humiliation, preferably with water balloons. It began with a prototype. I had an old leaf blower motor, some PVC from a sprinkler project, and a gutted popcorn machine from a cheesy mishap. Jake and I built the base in a weekend, tweaking pressure with apples and a parking sign I'd swiped from my driveway after the HOA tried to fine me for its tilt. We ended up with a water balloon cannon that could lob frozen payloads over 100 feet, though we dialed it back, mostly. As we worked, the drones got cockier, hovering closer, one even watching as I test-fired a flour-filled balloon at an old grill. It splattered in a glorious puff, and the drone tilted like it was taking notes. Linda wasn't done either. That week, a laminated final warning appeared on my tomato trellis, listing community adjacency offenses, a nonsense term, and threatening law 300 daily fines unless I ditched my unsightly greenhouse and windmill. So, I retaliated sensibly. I set up a scarecrow with a neon smile for the drone's sign and rigged a speaker to blast courtroom drama music whenever they flew over. The real showstopper came one scorching Saturday. A drone swooped too low over my chili roast. I armed the cannon, tracked it, inhaled the scent of latex and revenge, and fired. Boom. Direct hit. The balloon burst, drenching the drone and frying something critical. It wobbled, buzzed, and crashed into Linda's prized koi pond across the fence. I watched the splash from my deck chair, sipping my juice pouch, thinking it was over. But that splash was just the opening act. Linda doesn't lose quietly. She calls cops, emergency HOA meetings, and declares war. I had no clue how wild this drone saga would get. The day after the koi pond crash, I woke to an eerie silencino buzzing. No spying, not even wind in the pines. It felt like the world was holding its breath, and I knew that wasn't good. Linda wasn't one to slink away after a water balloon takedown. Sure enough, an hour later, a guy in khakis and mirrored shades knocked on my gate, flashing a badge that read HOA compliance. He handed me a folder labeled Incident Report and said I was under investigation for aerial misconduct and drone destruction of community property. I asked what law gave the HOA airspace rights. He just smirked like a rent-a-cop with a power trip and left. Inside the folder was a photo and aerial shot of me aiming a garden hose at the sky, surrounded by balloon scraps, looking like a lunatic defending a fortress. That's when I knew we had to up the ante, not with rage, but with tactical absurdity. Jake rolled up with donuts and a grin that said he'd been waiting for this his whole life. We turned my garage into a war lab. Blueprints on the table, ammo on the shelves, and an old satellite dish we dubbed Big Bertha. The plan? Boost accuracy, extend range, and mix up the payloads. Water balloons were out. Now we had dye, glitter, and a few with chili extract from my hottest peppers. Non-lethal, non-toxic, but a real buzzkill. As we tinkered, the drones evolved wider, smaller, with domed undersides. Linda had gone high-tech. One night, we tested it with heated bricks on my lawn. The drone zeroed in like it was hunting heat signatures. Military-grade surveillance for compost bins? Only Linda Marshall. Then came the twist. A few Falcon Crest folks reached out anonymously. One message read, "She's watching us too through our windows." It's not just you. A jittery teen slipped me a flash drive and a Dollar General parking lot drone footage of kids in yards, a woman doing yoga, an old guy singing to his cats. Linda was hoarding it all, purpose unknown. That changed everything. This wasn't just my fight Anna Maria, it was about privacy. So we built Balloon Cannon 2.0, rotating turret, auto-aim from my old karaoke mix voice tracker, and a toaster conveyor loader. It was ridiculous and flawless. We called it the Soaker. Jake wanted a World War II tank name, but we went colorful literally. Test rounds burst in blue, green, and neon orange, making drone bits easy to spot. We mounted it on my roof, tied it to a motion sensor, and set it to manual only for safety. I even trained my dog, Biscuit, to bark at drone buzzing alarm fueled by peanut butter treats. By Thursday, we were set. A drone cruised in, low and slow, maybe baiting us. The drone wheezed, spun, and crashed into the woods behind Linda's place. We toasted with grilled cheese and root beer, but knew payback was coming. Next morning, my property line sprouted giant signs, designated threat zone, and HOA surveillance in progress, do not interfere, complete with a cheesy eagle silhouette. That afternoon, 3 HOA board members rolled up with clipboards and measuring wheels, claiming to survey for a fence. They were on my land. I showed them my deed, maps, and called my surveyor pal from college. Faced with real coordinates, their smugness faded. They muttered about interpretive boundaries and shuffled off. They weren't after legal wins, just harassment. Too bad for them. I've got the stubbornness of a mule and the schedule of a jobless hermit. The breaking point hit when a fourth drone appeared, sporting a speaker. I was watering my garden when it blared Linda's voice. "You are in violation of HOA Ordinance 14B. Cease all hostilities or face legal action." She'd turned herself into a low-budget sci-fi VY lane. I called Jake. We met at sundown, me with chili extract, him with heavy-duty balloons. We prepped a dozen rounds capsaicin-laced, enough to make a drone regret flying. But we didn't need to fire. Next morning, sipping coffee at sunrise, the sky was clear, no drones, just birds and Biscuit chasing his tail. We nodded, silent, knowing this was the calm before the Linda storm. Peace lasted 36 hours too quiet. I dared to hope the glitter bomb had scared them off. Then came the garden explosion, an HOA tribunal, and footage that had set the neighborhood ablaze figuratively and nearly literally. It started with the koi pond, or what was left of it. Jake and I were chilling with lemonade when we heard a splash crash pop. Drone down. Minutes later, sirens, not cops or fire, but HOA emergency response, golf carts with flashing lights zoomed in. Linda led the charge, arms flailing, yelling about violence against aquatic life. She pointed at me, shrieking, "That drone carried my niece's custom camera. You've traumatized Koi." I nearly spat my drink. That afternoon, I got a summons not from a court, but the HOA, stamped with a pinecone and shear's crest, calling me to a tribunal for reckless endangerment and dishonorable conduct. I laughed until I couldn't breathe, then went not because I cared, but to witness the madness. The tribunal was on a mowed HOA lawn, 3 folding tables as a dais, flanked by ferns and solar torches. Linda sat center in a white pantsuit, like she was marrying vengeance. To her left, her husband Greg, the community developer, stared blankly, a man broken years ago. To her right, Susan, HOA VP, seemed more into her nails than the drama. Residents looked bored until I flipped the script. I brought a flash drive, prepped with Jake, loaded with footage from scared neighbors. Linda's voice narrating, window open, subject in PJs, clutter recommend warning, and worse, a teen changing, blurred for decency. I plugged it in. Gasps. Greg sweated. Linda screamed deep fake, but the crowd wasn't buying it. Then Jake dropped the Bomba second drive with audio of Linda and Greg plotting. We'll sell the drone data as engagement metrics. If they're not hiding anything, they won't care. Silence. Susan ditched her badge with a satisfying clack and called for a new vote. The room erupted. Residents unloaded years of gripes, rejected lawns, banned chalk, fined wind chimes. Linda's rules became her undoing. A cop car rolled up, not for me, for Greg. He'd sold drone GPS to a shady firm, now sued for privacy violations. He was cuffed. Linda ranted about CIVYL war, but no one cared. Her HOA empire crumbled. I sipped my juice pouch, savoring the chaos, knowing Linda wouldn't fade without a fight. Sure enough, she went nuclear. That day, a monster drone appeared, spider-shaped, loud, patrolling her turf and taunting mine with red lights and a speaker. Jake dubbed it the Death Ledger and pitched a twin-barrel, double trouble cannon with heat sensors. I agreed, insisting on the silly name. News vans followed. I told them, everyone deserves privacy, chili, and balloon defenses. Linda's signs, drone-free except HOA units, got defaced with balloon art. Susan rallied a dozen residents to my place with snacks and gripes, fined mailboxes, band pools. It half-worked newbies got spooked. So we staged the splash rally outside the HOA light capes, chili balloons, media. Susan pitched a new HOA. As the sun set, Linda's 6-foot drone flew in, banner blaring, "HOA reclaims this land," her voice booming threats. Everyone looked at me. Double trouble fired glitter dye and chili soap balloons smashed it. It crashed through the HOA clubhouse roof. Cheers erupted. Linda vanished indoors. The vote loomed, and we had more up our sleeve. After the crash, Linda went silent to silent. Residents surged, petitioning her out with flyers and Let Freedom Splash shirts. Then, a slick arbitrator, Philip, invited me to mediate in the wrecked clubhouse. Linda ranted about my dog's bark. I dropped a folder, drone pics, resident notes, and Greg's notarized confession. Linda ordered it all, misused funds, planned to sell data. Philip bailed. Next day, Linda's house was for sale. Susan won HOA president, axed drones, and exposed Linda's espresso machine splurge. I became a local hero. Kids drew me riding balloons. A Fed in a black SUV offered me a gig for my Canon tech. I said I'd think about it. Peace returned. One night, Jake and I watched the stars, launched a gold chili balloon, and let it glitter down. The Canon stayed just in case.